Hey everybody, welcome back to Swiftlessons for another rhythm guitar tutorial. In today's session, we're going to be expanding your knowledge of common chord shapes rooted off of the low E string. We're going to be doing everything today in the key of A. Now in section 1, we're going to be reviewing some common bar chord shapes. Then in section 2, we're going to be learning those chords that will absolutely grab the attention of your listeners. I'm talking about those very flavorful jazz blues chord shapes. Now, you can follow along using my PDF study guide at patreon.com/swiftlessons. That's going to help you to understand the notes and the intervals that are inside each of these chords. Now, let's get started. Okay, a close look at the fretboard, getting started with section 1. Here we're going to be learning a variety of E-rooted bar chord shapes, including the major, the minor, the major 7, the dominant 7, the dominant 7 add 13, the minor 7, and the sus4. Okay, so taking a look at this first chord, we're going to get the finger positions down first, then we're going to take a look at the notes that are inside it, and also the intervals as they relate to the major scale. So our first chord is a garden variety A major chord. Bar in the 5th fret, low E string to high E string, thumb nice and low, finger nice and straight up against the fret. All right, the ring finger on the 7th fret of the A string, pinky beneath that, 7th fret of the D, and the middle finger on the 6th fret of the G string. Okay, for all of these bar chord shapes, it tends to help to pull back with both arms a little bit, press your chest into the guitar if you need a little bit of extra pressure. Okay, one last tip, my elbow is inside, so that way I have the ideal hand posture. Okay, so this is the basic movable major bar chord shape. Okay, and looking inside this chord, we have an A note in the bass. That's also our root note. Then the next note that we have in the chord is the 5th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, A, B, C sharp, D, E. So right there we have the 1, the 5. Next on the D string, that's going to be another A note because it's the octave. A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A. You can see how valuable it is to know the names of the notes on the fretboard. Okay, next. In the next octave, we're going to have the major 3rd. Do, re, mi. So A, B, C sharp, right there on the 6th fret of the G string. Next, we're going to have a repeat note, the 5th interval on the B string 5th fret. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, another E note. All right, and then on the high E string, same as it was on the low E string, another A note, the root. Okay, so harmony of A, C sharp, and E. Okay, with some repeated notes on various strings. So that's the basic major bar chord in the key of A. Okay, now moving on to chord number 2, you remove the middle finger to flatten the 3rd. This gives you the basic minor bar chord. Okay, so 1, 5, 1, flat or minor 3rd, same thing. The 5th again, and the root note. Okay, so A major, A minor. Okay, now, add in a note to our major harmony, we're going to create the chord A major 7. So, to figure out which note I need to add, I'm just going to find that 7th note of the scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so that's the 6th fret of the D string, a G sharp note. Okay, now adding that into the chord, we're going to have... Now this is somewhat of an uncommon chord shape compared to the others, but it is played. Alright, bar in the 5th fret, low E to high E. I also have the pinky on the 7th fret of the D string, the middle finger on the 6th fret D, and the ring finger on the G string 6th fret, again playing that major 3rd. Okay, so this is A major 7 in bar chord form. All right, so the 1, the 5, the major 7, the third, the fifth, and the one again. Okay, so now we have 3 to practice: A major, A minor, and also A major 7. All right, now moving on to the very, very common and very bluesy dominant 7 variety. With this chord, we're just taking the major 7, taking that 7th note, and flatten it back 1/2 step. Right there, that flat or dominant 7. You add that note, the 5th fret of the D string, into the chord. And we have A dominant 7. You can hear how bluesy that is. Okay, so in this chord, we've got 1, we've got the 5, we've got the dominant 7, the 3, and then we have the 5 and the 1 again. A dominant 7. Okay, now you add your pinky to the 7th fret of the B string, and we have our next chord. A7, add 13. But this is every single dominant 7, add 13 chord, and I love the tonality. It's a very sweet sounding chord. Okay, so far you have the major, the minor, the major 7, the dominant 7, and the dominant 7, add 13. Okay, now, moving on to our next chord, it's going to be the minor 7 bar chord shape. So just take your minor chord and take your pinky off. That way you're finding that dominant or flat 7 again and adding it to the minor triad. Okay, so now inside this chord we've got A, we've got E, we've got G, we've got C, that's the minor 3rd. We've got E, that's the 5th, and we have the root note once again, 5th fret of the high E string. So this is A minor 7. Practice moving that around the fretboard a little bit. You can try it on the 5th fret for A, the 10th fret for D, and the 12th fret for E. Okay, a 1-4-5 in a minor key. Okay, now one last bar chord shape for our practice today. This one is neither major or minor, it's suspended. Okay, though it's often used as kind of a bridge back to a major resolution. Okay, so again, we're barring the 5th fret low E string to high E string, thumb nice and low, and then stacking our fingers. The 7th fret A, 7th fret D, and 7th fret of the G string. Okay, this is a harmony of 1, 4, and 5, or the 1st, 4th, and 5th notes of, in this case, the A major scale. Okay, the intervals inside the chord, we've got 1, we've got 5, we've got 1, or the root note again, and then here, right here, we have the 4th note of the scale on the G string, 7th fret, the 5, and the 1 again. All right, so A sus4. Okay, now practicing all of these bar chord shapes real slow, we have A major. Removing the middle finger for A minor. All right, next we have A major 7 and A dominant 7, bluesy. Adding your pinky to the B string for A7, add 13. All right, then A minor 7 and A sus4, stacking the fingers. All right, for that nice big, lush melodic chord. Okay, tremendous work, everybody. You've just learned a handful of some very useful bar chord shapes. Now, the next step for you is to see if you can experiment moving them around the fretboard, switching up those chord forms, and seeing if you can come up with some original chord progressions of your own. It's always very, very helpful to know the names of the notes in the key that you're working in. So if we're in the key of A, we'd have E, F sharp, G sharp, going up to A, that's a lower octave, and then moving up into another octave, A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp again, G sharp again, and back to A. I can start applying different chord forms to those root notes, just experimenting and seeing what I like. So I could have A major, going up to a C sharp dominant 7, love that change. An F sharp minor, a D dominant 7, an A, an E, an A sus4, and back to an A major, just as an example. Okay, now jumping into section 2, we're going to take things up a notch here and start learning some very flavorful jazz blues grips. We're going to get started learning 6 major or consonant varieties. This means that these chords are going to be more pleasing to the ear and not stressful. So we're going to get started with the A major 7, then we're going to learn the A major 7 add 13, the A dominant 7, a little bit more bluesy, and the A7 add 13. Alright, we're also going to learn the A6 chord and the A9 chord. Okay, all different varieties that you're guaranteed to run into time and time again in various tunes. Then we're going to get into some more minor dissonant varieties. The A minor 7, the A minor 6, very common in gypsy jazz. Alright, from there, a slight adjustment gives us the A half diminished. Very intense chord shape. From there, one of the sweetest chord shapes I know, the A minor 9. And then finally, we're going to finish up with the very intense and very specific augmented shape, an A augmented with that sharp 5, very intense. Okay, so let's get started with that first chord shape, A major 7, essential for all the jazz enthusiasts out there. Okay, I've got my index finger on the root note, the 5th fret of the low E string. I've got my ring finger on the major 7, that's the 6th fret of the D. My pinky's on the major 3rd, the 6th fret of the G. And my middle finger is on the 5, which is going to be the 5th fret of the B string. Okay, so that's an A major 7 chord shape. All right, moving on to chord number 2. We're going to reconfigure our fingers, so we still have the 1, the major 7, the major 3rd, now with our index, middle, and ring, but we're going to extend our pinky out to the 7th fret of the B string, which, if you count up to the 2nd octave of the A major scale, we'll find that that's the 13th note in the scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So an A major 7 add 13. Beautiful chord shape. All right, you can try putting them together. We have A major 7. We have A major 7 add 13. All right, now moving on to the dominant 7 variety. A dominant 7. All right, now we've got the 1, dominant 7, major 3rd, and the 5. Index finger, 5th fret low E string, middle finger on the 5th fret D, pinky on the 6th fret G, and the ring finger, 5th fret of the B string. A dominant 7. Okay, once again, we're going to reconfigure our fingers and add the 13 note. So keep our index and middle in place, grab the major 3rd with the ring finger, and grab the 13 with the pinky. So it's exactly the same as the major 7 add 13, except the middle finger is moving back a half step, flattening the 7th note of the scale, down a half step, gives us this beautiful harmony. All right, so far we have the A major 7, very jazzy. The A major 7 add 13, even more jazzy. The slightly bluesier A dominant 7, and the A7 add 13, or A dominant 7 add 13. Okay, now let's learn how to play an A6 variety, because this comes up all the time. So I'm going to find the 6th note of the scale. All right, I'm going to combine that with my root note, 5th fret low E. All right, then I'm going to grab the 5, the 5th interval on the 5th fret of the B string, and I'm going to grab the major 3rd with my pinky on the 6th fret of the G string. Now, notice that the A string and the high E string is muted for all of these chord shapes. That's very common in blues and jazz music. Okay, you put that into the mix, we got A major 7, A major 7 add 13, A dominant 7, A7 add 13, and then the A6 chord. All right, now one more of these major, more consonant varieties. This one has a little bit more flavor to it. All right, the A9 chord shape. So this is just a zigzag. We've got our thumb grabbing the root note on the 5th fret. We've got our index finger grabbing the 4th fret A string, that's our major 3rd. All right, we've got our ring finger grabbing the dominant 7 on the D string 5th fret. The middle finger is grabbing the, let's check it out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that's why they call it an A9 chord. And then finally, our pinky is on the 5th interval again, 5th fret of the B string. All right, and then the high E string is just gonna be muted. So this is an A9 chord, but you can use it to play every single 9 chord in the book. A9, D9, full blues going up to E. Okay, now let's move on to some minor dissonant varieties. Okay, moving into our last stop for today's practice, learning some more minor or dissonant sounding varieties. Okay, so we're going to be learning the A minor 7. We're going to be learning the minor 6 variety, the half diminished variety, and one of my personal favorites, the minor 9, and also the A augmented chord. This is not a minor shape, but it does come up very often, and it sure is very dissonant. Okay, so that first minor chord shape, we have A minor 7. Middle finger on the root note, 5th fret, low E string. Then your ring finger is going to be barred across the D string, G string, and B string 5th frets to grab the dominant 7, the minor 3rd, and the 5th. Okay, A string muted, high E string muted. This gives you A minor 7, but also every single minor 7 chord in the book. Okay, now we need to flatten the dominant 7 of this chord down 1/2 step and put that into the shape, and that'll give us the A minor 6 chord. Okay, so middle finger this time on the low E string 5th fret for the root. We've got the 6 on the D string 4th fret. Then the minor 3rd with the ring finger, G string 5th fret. And the pinky once again on the 5th scale degree. Right there on the 5th fret of the B string. Okay, so that's an A minor 6 chord, but again, you can move this up and down the fretboard. All right, now for the very intense, very dissonant, half diminished chord shape. Okay, now I've got the middle finger on the 5th fret, low E string, again the root note. We've got the dominant 7 with the ring finger this time, the pinky on the minor 3rd, 5th fret G string, and the index finger on the 4th fret of the B string, playing that diminished 5th or flatted 5th interval. Okay, so this is every single half diminished chord rooted off of the low E string. Okay, now moving on to one of my personal favorite chords, the minor 9 variety. Really lush, beautiful chord, so much fun to move across the fretboard. It's also very easy to add a little bit of melody to this chord. Okay, so my thumb is wrapped around the root, 5th fret, low E string. The index finger is barred across the D string, G string, and B string of the same fret. That gives us the dominant 7, the minor 3rd, and the 5. Then, starting from this A note here on the D string, we can count up to the 9th note of the scale. Okay, remember, even though this is a minor chord, the major scale is still the reference point for building chord shapes. Okay, so there it is, the A minor 9 chord, grabbing that 9th interval on the 7th fret of the high E string with either your pinky or your ring finger, depending upon where you are on the fretboard or what you need to do. Okay, so we have the A minor 7. It's always great to practice arpeggiating the chord. We have the A minor 6. And we have the A half diminished. And also the A minor 9. Okay, now our last chord for the day, an A augmented chord, but really every single augmented chord in the book. All right, now this one features the major third, but it has this raised fifth or augmented or sharped fifth in it, which adds a lot of tension. And so therefore it's very dissonant. Okay, so the index finger, 5th fret low E string. We've got the major third with the middle finger, G string, 6th fret. We've got the sharp or augmented 5th right there on the 6th fret of the B string. And then the pinky can grab the root note on the 7th fret of the D string. Again, the A string is muted with the index finger, just kind of touching it. And then also the high E string is muted. Okay, so every single augmented chord in the book. All right, now we're gonna practice all of those jazz blues grips one after another, see if you can play along. So we started off with an A major 7 chord. We added in the 13th scale degree. For A major 7, add 13. We had A dominant 7, and also its 13 variety, A dominant 7, add 13. We had the A major 6 chord, and we had the very bluesy, very funky A9 chord shape. Getting into the minors, we had the A minor 7. We have the A minor 6 for that gypsy jazz flavor. We have the A half diminished, and the very beautiful A minor 9 chord. And then finally, the very bizarre, very intense, augmented chord shape. Okay, so once again, the next step for you guys is to flex that creative muscle, practice moving those chord shapes up and down the fretboard, and see if you can come up with some original tunes. Some combinations of chords I like in the key of A would be B minor 7, the 2 chord, going up to the 5 chord, E7 add 13, down to the 1 chord, A major 7, walking down to an F sharp minor 6, the 4 chord, D major 7, turning that one minor is a nice touch before going back to the 1, and then the crescendo, the 5 chord, set up as the augmented shape for some tension, setting up a resolution. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this lesson. I hope that this will motivate you to start looking inside the chords, learning the names of the notes inside them, and also their intervals. And above all else, I hope that learning these chord shapes will inspire a little bit of creativity and your next original song. Enjoy your practice.